like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength, now I'm the only one. Only one. I was an ordinary boy until I broke the rules, my life destroyed. Life destroyed. Until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes. How much can I take? My mind will break. Will it break? Can I take? Can I be your superhero?
Good evening, everybody. I hope that you can hear me okay. My name is 12 Gage. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gage Investigative. I wanted to get on here to just discuss some current cases that really aren't getting a lot of, attention in the true crime community. And I also wanted to talk a little bit just to get, sometimes you just need to talk. Hello, Leslie and Billy. Hello, Charisma. Thank you for being here. Yes, it is a good vibe. It is a good vibe. Sometimes, you know, um, there are times in life where, you know, you don't really understand how good you have it until you see other people not have it so well, I'm doing well, thank you. And this is going to be some of the cases that I'm going to be showing you. I didn't realize how bad these cases were until I started listening to this video. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about, I don't know if you know who Jelly Roll is, but I played my class a video on Jelly Roll earlier. And I'd like to play it for you guys because it's quite inspirational, even though it's talking to juveniles. He could be talking to a room of adults, you know what I mean? So, let me go ahead and put the video up here that I wanted to show because, like I said, this video that I was watching it earlier and I thought, man, I've never heard of some of these cases. And it's tragic for some of these people that their stuff never really gets shown. But let me show it to you guys. This lady's name is Ariel Valdez, okay? I think I remember hearing her case, but I don't know if it's just because I watched this earlier and it kind of brought back some memories about hearing it, but I really don't know. So here we go.
21-year-old Ariel Valdez left her home in North Fort Myers, Florida, for a jog one evening in late August and never made it back. She was last seen running toward the Edison Bridge on surveillance footage that was captured around 15 minutes later at 6:45 p.m. At the time, Valdez was training for an upcoming marathon It wasn't unusual for her to go on long runs, but her loved ones believed she was mentally unwell and in urgent need of help, prompting them to report her missing around 2 hours after she left the house. Valdez's mother told the police that her daughter had been behaving strangely over the last few days, and that she had mentioned hearing demon voices in her head. Earlier that day, Valdez had fled her residence with no shoes on. She was found at a local electrical plant, and her mother had encouraged her to share her phone's location with the family due to concerns about her safety and well-being, but she had failed to do so, and law enforcement wasted no.
Well, let me tell you a little bit, guys. If somebody is telling you that they're hearing things or something is going on with them psychologically, mentally, or anything, don't dispel it just as somebody just having a bad time. Try to get them into some help. And I understand you just can't, will yourself into a doctor's office and try to get somebody help that quickly. I understand that. And that's part of the tragicness of our country is the mental health aspect and the inability to get people help whenever they need it. I mean, there's a lot of cases that you hear about that, this is a big problem. Hell, the case that's going on right now that's huge about the assassination on the United Healthcare president or CEO. I mean, that sounds more and more like a mental health case. So don't dispel it at just somebody just talking.
No time launching a search for Valdez due to the concerning nature of the circumstances leading up to her disappearance. 5 days after Valdez vanished, her body was found in the Caloosahatchee River. While authorities have not revealed her cause of death, there were no signs of foul play, leading to the conclusion that the tragedy stemmed from the young woman's battle with mental illness. Number 11. Hector Ramon Martinez Ayala, while conducting a welfare check at a residence in Toole, Utah. In early August, police found the murdered body of 25-year-old Salt Lake County Sheriff's Deputy Marbella Martinez. She had been strangled to death at the home which she shared with her father, 54-year-old Hector Ramon Martinez Ayala, just months after joining the sheriff's office. Upon further investigation, detectives discovered that Martinez Ayala had withdrawn $1,000 from Marbella's bank account the day before her body was found. He had also sent his brother cryptic text messages about how he had made a big mistake and committed an unforgivable sin, and that he was leaving and never coming back. According to prosecutors, Martinez Ayala became increasingly obsessed and controlling toward his daughter, leading up to her murder. Acting more like a jealous lover than a concerned father, Marbella had reportedly confronted her father over some of her intimate belongings that she had found in his bedroom, and he had promised to stop his problematic.
I mean, this is another case too. Like I said, these cases are disturbing. I mean, how would you handle it if you were living with your father? I guess she was living with him, and you noticed that he had some of your intimate stuff in his room, and was acting like a jealous boyfriend rather than a father. Wouldn't that kind of trip you out? Ultimately, it cost this lady her life.
Behavior, but that didn't happen, according to investigators who claim that before her Merkin area where she spent time with someone she had just started dating. Marbella stayed at a hotel for a few days and was last seen entering her home on surveillance footage that was captured 2 hours before the mysterious text messages that Martinez Ayala sent to his brother. After sending the messages, the accused killer used his twin brother's ID to flee the United States. He's wanted on charges of murder, stalking, and obstructing justice. Number 10. Rizard Murawski. Just days into the new year in 2024, 44-year-old New York resident Rizard Murawski stabbed his wife, 38-year-old Violetta, to death outside their Lindenhurst, Long Island home. The couple's teenage son overheard his mother's screams for help. from a nearby residence where he was visiting a friend and rushed home to find his father plunging a serrated knife into his mother's body in the family's backyard. Determined to save Violetta, the young man jumped on Rizard, giving his mother a chance to escape. After taking just a few steps, Violetta collapsed in the street with a large trail of blood marking her final movements. Her son tried desperately to perform life-saving measures as he dialed 911, but Violetta succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced dead at a nearby hospital. By the time police arrived at the scene, Rizard had fled in his pickup truck. He was spotted by law enforcement shortly thereafter and led officers on a high-speed 7-mile pursuit before losing control of his vehicle and crashing into a building. Roughly 9 months after Violetta's death, Rizard pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. He's facing up to 22 years in prison and is scheduled to be sentenced in October. Number 9. Joseph Couch. On what began as a typical Saturday in September, a gunman opened fire on passing motorists with an assault rifle along Interstate 75 near London, Kentucky. 5 people were shot, including one driver who was struck in the face, but all of the victims are expected thousand rounds of ammunition early. Prior to the shooting, he sent his ex-wife a text message stating that he planned to kill a lot of people. The woman alerted the authorities, but they were unable to prevent the onslaught of gunfire. Investigators recovered the gun, bullets, and Couch's SUV less than a day later, but Couch managed to elude law enforcement, sparking a manhunt that lasted for nearly 2 weeks as police combed through 28,000 acres of heavily forested terrain. 12 days after the shooting, YouTuber couple and self-proclaimed bounty hunters Fred and Sheila McCoy found Couch's heavily decomposed remains deep in the woods. He had succumbed to a gunshot wound to the head.
I guess that's why YouTubers are so intimate with these cases sometimes, because like these two right here, they found the body and they're YouTubers. They have a channel, you know, and sometimes it's interesting how, you know, you say people take it too far, people are too invested in certain things. Well, these people actually did a good deed by being invested, by going out and searching, you know what I mean? So it's not always a bad thing.
Fred and Sheila made the discovery by walking in the direction of some vultures they saw flying overhead, indicating the presence of deteriorating flesh below. The couple, who live streamed their efforts on the YouTube channel Hatfield McCoy Museum Adventures, received rewards totaling $25,000. While Couch's exact motives for committing the shooting remain unclear, several of his neighbors have described encounters which point toward mental instability. In February, Couch was charged with terroristic threatening after a neighbor confronted him for throwing a rock at their dog. During the conversation, Couch allegedly pointed a loaded AR-style rifle at his neighbor and the man's young daughter. Following the confrontation, 3 of the victims' dogs reportedly turned up dead, including 2 canines who had been poisoned. The neighbor failed to appear in court, later telling CBS that he had not been notified of the upcoming hearing and the case was dropped due to his absence. Another community member, 61-year-old Donald Causey, told reporters that he got along fine with Couch until about a week before the shooting, when Couch threatened Causey with a rifle for walking too close to his property. Causey went inside and Couch proceeded to circle his property dozens of times with the gun on his shoulder. Due to his lack of past issues with Couch, Causey opted not to call law enforcement, a choice that he later said he regretted. In hindsight, he said it was obvious that Couch's personality had changed in ways that were indicative of a deteriorating mental state. And
as cliche as it is, and I don't mean to keep pausing this and speaking, but I don't want to get copyrighted or have this video suddenly turn off. I have to do this. So, see something, say something. Even if it's nothing, it's better to be on the side of proactive than to have something as awful as this occur.
Investigation into the circumstances leading up to the shooting appears to be ongoing. Number 8. Bobby Singh Shah. In August of 2024, 21-year-old Nepalese national Muna Pandey was found shot to death inside her Houston, Texas apartment. The college student's remains were discovered after an unknown male called the building's management and notified them of a dead body inside the residence. The mysterious caller hung up without providing any additional information. Neighbor told investigators had overheard loud thumping coming from Pandey's apartment 2 days before her body was found, and he had not seen or heard from her. Later identified as 51-year-old Bobby Singh Shah, ordered her into the home at gunpoint. About an hour later, Shah was seen leaving the residence with one of the shopping bags. Pandey never left her apartment again and was found dead 2 days later. Police released still images of the suspect and a local restaurant owner.
See, I'd like to do this case right here because it seems kind of disturbing. I don't know if you guys can still hear me. I hope you can. See that video, like the screen totally went off. I don't know what's going on, but like I said, it's weird how YouTube and StreamYard act sometimes. Can y'all still hear me?
Who recognized him as a regular customer came forward to help identify him. 2 days after Pandey's body was found, a woman called law enforcement and said that she had recognized Shah as a man she had connected with on a sugar daddy dating website back in 2012. The accused killer is currently being detained without bail on suspicion of capital murder and a gun charge. Number 7. Bryce Jonathan Schubert. 32-year-old Melissa Jubain was reported missing in September 2024 after she failed to show up for her morning shift at the Providence St. Vincent Medical Center in Portland, Oregon, where she worked as a nurse. At the request of her co-workers, police attempted to conduct a welfare check at Jubain's residence in Beaverton, but she was nowhere to be found. Just 2 weeks earlier, the woman had married her husband, Brian Lantero, after a decade of dating long distance. Jubain had just returned to Oregon when she vanished and was planning to relocate to Washington State to live with her husband, who last heard from her on the morning of her disappearance. 3 days after Jubain went missing, police found her murdered remains. While authorities have released few details about the crime, including where her body was found and her manner of death, news of the discovery was accompanied by a statement announcing the arrest of Jubain's neighbor, Bryce Jonathan Schubert, on suspicion of first-degree murder. Schubert lived in the same apartment complex as Jubain and worked as a nurse at another facility. He pleaded not guilty and remains held without bail as he awaits his next court date, which is scheduled for mid-October. In the meantime,
So this makes me wonder, how many, there's 12 of these right here. So as we were talking in the New Evil book that I was reading, the book by Gary Bricotto, it was diagramming these types of killings. I might have to go back and start that book all over again in order to understand it just a little better, because some of these killings are just random acts, or are they spree killings? Is there something going on in the relationship? Was this guy stalking this lady? Because obviously he wasn't married to her. She had just gotten married and relocated to Portland, or she was in Portland, and she was moving to Washington State. You know what I'm saying? It's like there's so many different variations of these individuals getting killed. Have y'all heard of any of these other than the couch guy?
the judge overseeing the court proceedings has ordered for the documents regarding Jubain's murder to be sealed due to the high-profile nature of the case. Number 6. Brian Crossman Jr. 46-year-old Brian Crossman Sr., 41-year-old Erica Paulasiak Crossman, and Erica's teenage son, Colin Taft, were murdered at their home in rural Paulette, Vermont in September 2024, just months after the couple's wedding. Local residents were shocked by the deaths of the well-liked family who lived on a farm that had been in Brian Sr.'s family for generations. At the time of his death, Crossman was serving a 1-year term as the town of Paulette's liaison to buildings and development and liaison to the town highway department. He had a reputation for being a good friend and neighbor and a hard-working member of the community. Police responded to the residents during the early morning hours on a Sunday after receiving a 911 call from Brian Sr.'s son, 22-year-old Brian Crossman Jr., who reportedly claimed that he had found his family dead after returning from a walk. Inside the residence, officers found the bodies of Brian Sr., Erica, and Taft, who had all been shot to death. The murder weapon and multiple shell casings were recovered at the scene. Investigators identified Brian Jr. as the prime suspect in the case and obtained a warrant for his arrest on suspicion of 3 counts of aggravated murder. He was picked up in neighboring New York State and detained in Glens Falls, pending his extradition to Vermont. According to law enforcement, the accused killer has a history of aggression, cognitive setbacks, and mental health issues. Brian Jr. reportedly gave conflicting stories about his knowledge of the events leading up to the triple murder, and a search of his devices revealed recent internet searches related to serial killers and cold case murders. His alleged motive for the crime remains unclear. Number 5. Jason Carlson, Sherelle Allen, and Luke Anaya. At around 10 a.m. on a September morning, deputies in Jefferson County, Colorado, responded to a call at a local emergency room where a 45-year-old man had sought treatment after being beaten, tortured, and held captive by his roommates for 14 hours. The victim, who is listed in court documents as John Doe, told law enforcement that he had lived at the residence for several weeks and was in a basement bedroom at around 2 in the morning when he overheard the culprits discussing their plans to attack him. In a frantic attempt to avoid being harmed, the man unsuccessfully tried to climb out his window. He then tried barricading himself inside the room by placing items in front of the door.
Can you imagine that? Waking up at 2 in the morning, overhearing these two plotting to hurt you, to attack you. What the heck would you do? I mean, honestly, what would you do? Those of you in chat, what would you do? You're in a room and you overhear these two, hey, we're gonna go hurt this guy. What would you do? Share your thoughts.
But his assailants barged in and shot at him with rock salt using airsoft-type guns. According to police documents, 39-year-old Jimmy Ray Smith II stepped on the victim's neck, rendering him unconscious. The attackers proceeded to tie John Doe to a chair, then took turns striking his knees with a baseball bat. 49-year-old Jason Carlson is accused of pouring lighter fluid on the man's face and igniting the liquid, while 48-year-old Sherelle Allen and 41-year-old Luke Anaya were also implicated in the case. The victim finally reached a hospital after 2 people arrived at the residence and told the suspects to leave him alone. They drove John Doe to another residence where they realized he needed medical treatment and had someone drop him off at the entrance of a local hospital. Court documents note that his injuries aligned with his explanation of events, including facial burns, singed eyebrows, broken neck cartilage, swollen and discolored knees, and evidence that he had been bound. A SWAT team arrested Carlson, Allen, and Anaya, who remain behind bars at the Jefferson County Jail in lieu of cash bonds ranging from $150,000 to $300,000. The suspects are each facing multiple charges, including attempted first-degree murder, first-degree assault, second-degree assault, and second-degree kidnapping. Number 4. Jesse Chabes. Early one morning in September, an apartment building in Portage, Indiana, became engulfed in flames. Firefighters arrived almost immediately from the fire station next door. And while most of the residents escaped, 87-year-old Maria Leal died from smoke inhalation inside the ground floor apartment she shared with her daughter. And it's no coincidence that the fire was started in the very same apartment, according to investigators, who quickly narrowed their sights on Leal's daughter's boyfriend as the prime suspect in the deadly arson. 51-year-old Jesse Chabes is now facing charges of arson, murder in perpetration of arson, and intimidation. He stands accused of setting the building ablaze after arguing with Leal's daughter at a bar hours earlier. According to court documents, Chabes' girlfriend had previously told a friend that she was scared of Chabes, who she described as jealous and
once again, she told somebody, and somebody didn't take that seriously until after the fact. How many of these cases do we watch where the women tell somebody that they're scared of the individual? Suzanne Simpson case. She said she was scared that her husband had abused her. And the list goes on and on. I can't think of them right off the top of my head, but the list goes on and on. So you hear somebody tell you, hey, I'm scared of this person. They're not acting right. They're a little off. They're acting a little unhinged. You know, you might take that serious. You might even make a report just in case anything does happen. You know? Because it's better to be safe than to be sorry. See something, say something.
and controlling. After the couple got into a disagreement prior to the fire, Chabes left the bar they were at in his girlfriend's car, while she got a ride from someone to another bar. Shortly after 11 p.m., Chabes began calling his girlfriend and threatening to burn down her residence. When the woman's friend who answered the phone told Chabes that he wasn't really going to do that, he reportedly replied, "Watch me." At around midnight, the woman and her friend learned that Chabes had apparently made good on his promise. Inside the apartment, investigators found evidence that the fire had been started using an accelerant, including a nearly empty bottle of lighter fluid on the porch that had been full prior to the arson. Police believe Chabes accessed the apartment through his girlfriend's bedroom window, which she often left unlocked, so Chabes could come and go without disturbing her mother. Officers confronted Chabes after they saw him driving near the crime scene. He denied being responsible for the blaze, but he will now be tasked with proving his proclaimed innocence in the court of law. Number 3. Jordan Jared Law. 54-year-old Ray Allison Beerwanger was last seen in March of 2019 at the Bonner County, Idaho residence of her ex-boyfriend, 46-year-old Jordan Jared Law. Shortly after she vanished, Law mentioned that she had recently spoke about wanting to leave the area. He also told police that Beerwanger had purchased a car from him 3 days prior to her disappearance and that he had found the vehicle abandoned at an intersection 2 days later. Despite any signs that Beerwanger might have wanted to abandon her life in Idaho, investigators suspected foul play. And although her body has never been found, authorities believe she was murdered and are now attempting to hold Law responsible for her death. Law has been a person of interest since the early stages of the investigation into Beerwanger's disappearance. In 2020, roughly a year after Beerwanger went missing, he entered an Alford plea to a charge for unlawfully possessing his ex's debit card. He received a suspended sentence and a year probation, along with 100 hours of community service. In September of 2024, a grand jury indicted Law on charges of second-degree murder, offering false or forged instruments for the record, and destruction of evidence. He is also accused of assaulting another victim who was discovered during the investigation into Beerwanger's disappearance and does not appear to be in custody amid the ongoing cases. Today's topic was requested by Frosted900 and Peter Montoya 1796. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Jula Freeman. in a disturbing act of unprovoked violence that was captured on video in September of 2024. An elderly New York City resident was sucker punched by a complete stranger on Manhattan's Upper West Side. 81-year-old Julia Freeman was walking her son's dog near her apartment building at around 7 p.m. when she was knocked unconscious by her attacker, who could be seen walking past the senior citizen, then reaching back and striking her on the side of the face. After being knocked flat on the ground, the octogenarian received treatment for a concussion and facial injuries at a nearby hospital. Speaking with the New York Post, Freeman said she had no recollection of the attack. The first thing she remembered afterward was sitting in her sister's apartment, which is located in the same building. She told the Post that she didn't feel targeted and didn't take the incident personally, but that she hoped the perpetrator would get.
That's one for you. What do y'all think about that one? The dude just walked past her, and then walked back and sucker punched her. Then she's 81 years old. Does this not bring a little anger to you? I mean, seriously. 81 years old, and this guy just sucker punches her. I wonder if he had issues with this lady or her dog, or maybe he had asked her to had the dog quit doing something. You know, why would I remember seeing this all over YouTube? But I never followed the case, so I don't know what happened. Do any of y'all know what ended up happening with this? With this lady and this guy? It's just terrible. Just terrible. Walked up, sucker punched her, and knocked her out. With her poor little dog just sitting there.
Help for whatever issues they have which triggered them to commit the attack. The NYPD released footage of the incident, but the suspect remains at large. These 2024 cases were truly terrifying, but what happens when an ordinary true crime fan takes their obsession way too far? Right after number one, we've got our previous release of when true crime fans go wrong, so stick around. Number one, Walter King Bickham. On a Wednesday evening in September of 2024, police in Des Moines, Iowa, responded to a call about a medical event at a local residence. Emergency responders arrived to find 52-year-old Suzette Ray Gumbs in cardiac arrest and losing a large amount of blood from a laceration to her leg. She was rushed to the emergency room where she succumbed to her injuries despite the life-saving efforts of paramedics and doctors. 58-year-old Walter King Bickham was detained at the scene and has since been charged in connection with Gumbs' death. According to prosecutors, Bickham stabbed the victim during a domestic dispute and failed to call for emergency help. He remains behind bars at the Polk County Jail on a second-degree murder charge, and the investigation into the incident is ongoing. Officers from the Hampshire Constabulary in southeast England responded to a home in Havant to investigate a possible homicide on the morning of July the 17th of 2022. They were met at the front door by 27-year-old Shay Groves, who was wearing a pink dressing gown and smoking a cigarette. In body cam footage later released to the public, Groves apologized for her barking dogs before being informed that she was under arrest on suspicion of murder. The woman's friend, Vicky Bateup, had reportedly called the police following an alarming video chat that took place earlier that morning. Bateup testified that Groves had called her and was giggling away as she pointed the camera at the lifeless body of her on-again, off-again boyfriend, Frankie Fitzgerald, aged 25. She told her friend, "I've done him," at which point Bateup phoned the police. Responding law enforcement immediately noted the pungent smell of bleach in the bedroom. As it turned out, the woman had viciously stabbed Fitzgerald, a father of two.
So let me ask you guys that are in the chat, you true crime enthusiast, if you smell bleach upon entering the residence, what does that usually mean? Come on, everybody. Who's going to be the first one to answer that? I remember this one too. But what does that mean if you enter the residence and you smell bleach? What did that usually mean? They cleaned up. Hey, Tom Van, you say, let me read some of these before I go on. Truth says, all of these so-called tough guys evidently aren't strong enough to just leave a relationship if a woman continues to get them out of character. Very good thought. Very good thought. Tom said all these men have very aggressive attitudes, don't seem very bright, and can't control their anger and self-entitlement. Too much testosterone and lack of sensitivity, chip most people have. Very good. Cleanup. You're right. Cleanup. So you enter the residence, you smell bleach. There's a good probability that there was a cleanup. And one thing that happened here that wasn't mentioned in that case we don't really talk about is that it was a bleach smell once the police walked in. That was never in the PCA. That was never even mentioned. So all these conspiracies about being a cleanup, but no chemical smells or residue was left behind. So just wanted to throw that in there for a second. But I do remember this case. And I want to say something else. If somebody becomes obsessive, and I'm talking obsessive, I'm not talking about casual true crime junkie. I'm not talking about somebody that's obsessed with murderers. This lady was obsessed with Chucky. So you have to wonder, you know, at what point must you say something? Must you try to get somebody help? You know what I mean? See something, say something.
17 times in the chest as he slept. The eruption of violence reportedly stemmed from the fact that Groves was jealous of her boyfriend's correspondence with another girl, whom she believed to be 13 years old. However, as it would later emerge, the individual Fitzgerald had communicated with was actually 17 years old, and he'd already blocked her number prior to the deadly attack. While searching the home, investigators found several framed pictures of real-life serial killers on Groves' wall, including Ted Bundy, Jeffrey Dahmer, and Myra Hindley. They also came upon a collection of books about violent criminals, most notably the notorious British prisoner Charles Bronson. Groves was described as being obsessed with horror films and true crime documentaries, and even had her own history of violence. Batup claimed that she'd once attacked a former roommate with nail clippers during an argument. Groves denied murder, claiming she'd acted in self-defense. But in February of 2023, she was found guilty of the crime and sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 23 years. Number 5. Brian Kohberger. 4 students from the University of Idaho were murdered in their off-campus apartment during the early morning hours of November the 13th of 2022. The victims were identified as Madison Mogan, Kaylee Goncalves, and Zana Knodel, who lived at the house, as well as the latter's boyfriend, Ethan Chaffin. 2 other residents of the rental property, Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk, were also home at the time but weren't harmed themselves. It was initially believed that Mortensen and Funk had been asleep when the perpetrator struck. However, it was later revealed that one of the surviving residents had seen a figure clad in black clothing and a mask who walked past her as he left the crime scene. She also testified to hearing someone crying on the night of the killings. A wide-reaching police investigation ensued involving nearly 130 members of law enforcement from the Moscow Police Department, the Idaho State Police, and the Latah County Sheriff's Office. Fortunately, a surveillance camera in the area had captured an image of a Hyundai Elantra leaving the scene around the time of the murders. The same vehicle was also observed driving past the victim's apartment 3 separate times in the hours following the home invasion. Investigators learned that the Elantra in question was owned by a man named Brian Kohberger. In December, Kohberger took the car on a road trip to Pennsylvania with his father for the holidays. He was pulled over twice within a 5-mile radius in Indiana, once for speeding and once for tailgating, but the police weren't yet aware of his involvement in the University of Idaho slayings, so he was permitted to leave. Cell phone data confirmed that Kohberger had been at the victim's house at the time they were killed. The suspect was further linked to the murders by way of a leather knife sheath left at the crime scene, which contained trace.
Did you hear what he just said? He said phone data confirmed that Koberger was at the residence at the time of the murder. How did this guy know that? How did he know that? But that's interesting nonetheless. He said some other stuff about the case that I've never heard before. That's interesting, though. Look, our boy made the list. We're like proud parents right now.
Traces of his DNA. The 28-year-old was finally arrested in Pennsylvania on December the 30th, then returned to Idaho a few days later to face the charges against him. Upon his identification to the public, it emerged that Koberger held a special interest in criminology, which might have foreshadowed his sudden outbreak of violence. Earlier that year, he reportedly earned a master's degree in criminal justice from DeSales University in Pennsylvania. At the time of the murders, Koberger was a doctoral student in criminology at Washington State University, having completed his first semester only 9 days prior to his arrest. It was reported that he'd been confronted by faculty members about his increasingly concerning behavior and conduct less than 2 weeks before he committed the quadruple homicide. A preliminary probable cause hearing in connection with the case was scheduled for June of 2023. Number 4. Gemma Victoria Lilly. At a young age, Gemma Victoria Lilly, originally from the town of Stamford in Lincolnshire, England, developed a deep fascination with serial killers. Diagnosed with dyslexia and autism at the age of 6, the girl's parents separated following domestic abuse by her mother, after which she and her sibling lived with their father. Around this time, Lilly started watching films about serial killers, which inspired her to dress up as them and collect butcher knives for fun. In her teen years, she penned a novel about a serial killer named SOS, in reference to David Berkowitz, better known as the son of Sam. The book was later published online under the pen name Sin Demon. In 2012, having recently moved to Australia, Lilly married a gay man in order to obtain permanent residency. Her husband died 2 years later, after which she grew particularly close to one of his old friends, Trudy Lennon. The latter frequently engaged in erotic practices as a so-called submissive. In May of 2016, she and Lilly forged a dominant-submissive relationship and moved in together in Western Australia. The following month, the pair found themselves under police scrutiny in connection with the murder of Aaron Payich, an 18-year-old with autism spectrum disorder. CCTV had captured Lilly and
Okay, so this is the second one. I read your comment, Charisma, and that's interesting. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Tom. Maybe watching serial killers or true crime documentaries. I know some people that are obsessed with the genre. Obsessed. I'm not talking about just casual. I'm talking obsessed. Meaning like this woman right here. They changed their whole wardrobe. They might start emulating a character they enjoy. They take it too far. It's almost like giving them a new identity. Like if I start being fascinated by this type of individual, the powerlessness that I feel in my daily life won't be so evident, and people will respect me because I've revamped myself into something more powerful, if that makes any sense.
Lennon driving out of the parking lot at Rockingham Center with Payich inside their vehicle. A camera outside the women's home also recorded them entering the residence with the young man in tow. On the night of June the 20th, about a week after Payich had last been seen, officers went to the home to look for him. They eventually found his body buried in a 12-inch deep grave in the backyard. An autopsy concluded that he'd been stabbed in the neck and chest, which had severed a jugular vein and punctured both his liver and lungs. There were also marks on his neck consistent with strangulation, as well as defensive wounds on his hands. Lilly and Lennon pleaded not guilty to murder charges at Stirling Gardens Magistrates Court. In October of the following year, their trial began at the Supreme Court of Western Australia. The criminal proceedings revealed that Lilly had sought someone to kill in order to take murder off her bucket list by the age of 25. One of her co-workers reportedly told police that she'd admitted to killing Payich just days after his disappearance. Lilly and Lennon were confronted with online conversations in which they expressed readiness to commit murder, as well as lists of torture methods and items used for torture found in their house, but claimed that it was all part of the writing process for the books they were authoring. Nevertheless, in November of 2017, they were both found guilty of murder and sentenced to life in prison, with the
Oh
possibility of
my
parole
God.
after 28 years. Number 3, Casey Scott. A man from Lincolnshire, England, hired an escort for $187 an hour on the night of July the 20th of 2016. Casey Scott subsequently brought the woman, identified as 28-year-old Lenuta Heidemak, back to his flat in Skegness. During the course of their session, however, Scott pulled out a knife and brutally stabbed Heidemak, whom he also strangled before she finally succumbed to his attack. The 29-year-old man then took a picture of the victim's degraded body as a morbid trophy, having crudely scrawled the name Jack across her abdomen in reference to the notorious British serial killer Jack the Ripper, whom he revered. Scott left Heidemak's body in his apartment and fled, remaining on the run for 3 days before being tracked down by police. Heidemak, a mother of 2, lived with her partner, Octavian Celestine, in Boston, about 20 miles from Scott's place. On the night of the incident, Celestine had contacted the authorities after not hearing from Heidemak for some time. Officers searched Scott's residence, where they found a used condom, a blood-stained knife, and Heidemak's lifeless body. She was naked, lying on her back and partially covered by a duvet. Investigators determined that Scott had researched and studied Jack.
What's a duvet? Can y'all help me out with that? A duvet? What is that? What is that? I mean, being an escort has some occupational hazards, I'm sure. You know, oh, okay. It sounds like it has some occupational hazards. Can you imagine just doing what you were doing for some money, and then all of a sudden this dude goes psycho on you, pulls out a knife and starts stabbing you, and then carves Jack in your stomach? I mean, I tell you, bro, I can't really think of how these individuals get to that frame of mindset.
Jack the Ripper extensively prior to committing the murder. The man ultimately admitted to the crime, and during a sentencing hearing at Lincoln Crown Court, was jailed for life with a minimum term of 19 years. Number 2, Cody Ackland. On the evening of November the 20th of 2021, 24-year-old Cody Ackland from the English port city of Plymouth accosted a teenage girl at a bus stop, hitting her over the head with a claw hammer. The man proceeded to kidnap 18-year-old Bobby Ann McLeod, whom he subjected to a prolonged assault in the woods, causing catastrophic injuries to her head and face. After she was dead, Ackland drove to Bobbasand Beach, roughly 30 miles away, where he dumped her body. In the hours that followed, he went to a pub lock-in with friends and held a rehearsal with his rock band, Rakuda. Auckland went about his normal routine for a few days after the killing. Then, on the 23rd of November, he left his valet job at around midday and walked to the Charles Cross police station to confess to the murder. Investigators subsequently found over 3,000 graphic images on Ackland's phone, which depicted disturbing scenes of post-mortem examination. He held an unhealthy obsession with serial killers that went beyond morbid fascination and manifested in a desire to imitate the sadistic murderers he idolized. In court, prosecutors tried to portray the similarities between Ackland's method of slaying McLeod and the modus operandi employed by Ted Bundy during his murder spree in the 70s. Both Ackland and Bundy approached their victims, who were strangers to them in public places, before taking them to a secluded spot to kill them. In prison,
So did you notice how he subdued that woman? She was at a bus stop. He knocks her over the head with a claw hammer, stunning her, and then that gives him the opportunity to abduct her. Yeah, bludgeoning. It's like, wow. You're just standing there waiting on a bus, and bam, you get hit over the head with a claw hammer. Man, it's not safe to go to a damn bus stop. Not safe to be at a damn hotel room with an escort? Where is it safe? Let me know. Let me know.
Ackland was examined by psychiatrists who found no mental illness that would allow him to plead diminished responsibility. He remained largely impassive while being tried in Plymouth Crown Court the following May. Judge Robert Linford labeled him a highly dangerous person who may never see freedom again. In the end, Ackland was given a life sentence and wouldn't be eligible for early release until he spent at least 31 years behind bars. Number 1. Hampshire schoolgirl. An English schoolgirl arranged to meet her best friend at a quiet corner of their Hampshire school grounds on April the 25th of 2016. She'd promised her friend a gift, but when they met up at the corner, she pulled out a kitchen knife and started stabbing the other girl. The victim managed to escape with only a minor injury to her chest. She'd been asked to close her eyes while receiving the present, but opened them just in time to see the girl lunging towards her with a knife. The friend jumped back instantly, preventing the blade from penetrating deep into her skin. Upon being taken into police custody, the unidentified girl admitted wanting to hurt her friend, but denied seeking to kill her. In spite of her claims, investigators learned that she'd previously researched fatal stab wounds to the heart on the internet. She was also fixated on serial killers, namely Ted Bundy, about whom she'd once made a school project. The girl was also accused of plotting to kill her mother.
Another one that was obsessive with serial killers. So, if anybody you know, without, just in casual talk, I'm talking about the obsessive stuff, They want to talk about this serial killer. They want to talk about it. 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 You know how sometimes you're listening to a creator or you're listening to people in the chat and they're talking about it and they're talking about it and they're talking about it. They won't let it go. That should be a red flag to some of you. That maybe this person has a little more investment than just a little bit of casual involvement in these cases. If you have that kind of attachment to any kind of evil deed that these people are doing, that should be a red flag for you. It's time to click the computer off. It's time to ask some professional for some help because your obsession has crossed into maybe a not so healthy involvement in your daily living.
Mother and brother, and allegedly wrote a journal entry that included plans for a school shooting. The crime-obsessed girl was said to have been inspired by the Columbine shooting and other mass killings. She was ultimately found guilty of attempted murder and sentenced to 10 years in detention. Thanks for watching. If you could time travel...
I hope y'all enjoyed that. I'm going to show y'all what I showed my clients earlier, and it's a little on a different side. It's kind of more inspirational than what I just showed you. But nonetheless, I want you to really take heed into what I was just saying. Not that I'm trying to be the moral compass or anything of YouTube, but honestly, see something, say something. If you notice somebody in your family that becomes dark all of a sudden and just goes from lovable to obsessive, you know, there could be something going on with them. You might need to take more precautions, be more mindful of their movements, because some of these people they acted quite normal, and then all of a sudden, bam, what were they doing? Killing people. Here we go. This is what I showed my juvenile class tonight. Hope you enjoy it.
Yo, my name is Jason Jelly Roll D Ford. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee. This is my brother Ernest. We got a show tonight at the Gamebridge Field House down in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. I'm here for one reason and one reason only. Even though I don't know you, I love you. And I love you because I know what you're going through. I'm not one of these guys that comes here to talk to y'all that don't know what's really happening in this room. When I was 14 years old, I got arrested for my first time. When I was 15 years old, I caught an attempted homicide case and a triple robbery. I was charged an adult when I was 17. I sat in juvenile for 2.5 years waiting to get charged an adult. I went upstream, fought my case, turned it over, went back to the streets, went back to trial, lost the trial, and went back and did 3 more years. During that time, I had a kid. It changed my whole life. Now, in the state of Tennessee, we have what they call a zero forgiveness policy for violent offenders. Does anybody know what that means? That means that under no circumstances can my record ever be expunged. Under no circumstance. I am up for a potential governor pardon right now, and it still won't matter because of a decision I made when I was 15 years old. But what I remember the most about being at that 15-year-old facility was nobody ever came through and talked to me that I understood. It was all a bunch of people that meant well and they had good intentions, but they just didn't relate to where I came from. They didn't understand that kind of pain that I've been through in my life. They didn't know what it was like to be a 15-year-old kid staring down the barrel of a 20-year sentence. It's a different feeling, boys. Y'all know that. Some of y'all are staring at it right now. Some of y'all squeak by one and know it. Whatever side of that you're on. Y'all know I came here to spit some real. That's the truth. I want you to know that for me, I fell in love with music the same way I fell in love with the streets. The same way that I was infatuated waking up every day and making $1. Listen, I didn't realize it, but as a young man, I had work ethic because I was 15, 16 years old and I'd wake up out of a dead sleep to sell somebody a $20 rock. And I'd act like I was wide awake. I would answer the phone like I'd been awake for hours, like I was talking to my PO. Hey, good morning. It's 4:30 in the morning. This is a junkie. I didn't realize it, but I knew I had a hustle. I had a work ethic. I knew I was different than everybody. I could feel that. I just went to the wrong direction with it. But when I realized that that was an innate gift, I just had to find something that I loved as much as I loved money. And I did. I had a little girl and I loved her and I wanted to be a father. And that's all I focused on. And then I fell in love with music. Ever since I came to juvenile the first time, I'll never forget, I walked in and they were beating on the table and they was all rapping. And I said, I'm going to try this. And I walked up and got.
Is there anybody in chat that does not know who this gentleman is? His name is Jelly Roll. He sings a very popular tune, a lot of them actually, but one of his most popular would put him on the map was a song called Save Me. And it's a very catchy tune. But he's speaking to the juvenile to give them a little bit of understanding about where their life can go. Not necessarily down a dark path, but he's also trying to give hope that you don't have to stay where you're at. And that can go with anybody. You know, so many times we meet people in our lives that are good people. They could be our bosses, they could be our coach, they could be, you know, the gas station attendant, they could be anybody. Good people are everywhere. But if you don't see good in your world, you're never going to listen to the good. And, you know, sometimes we are our worst enemy and our harshest critic. So, you know, it's not about we don't know where to turn. Sometimes we have to take a moment to be still in order to look at our surroundings, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are willing and able to take you to a more positive place if that's where you desire.
Got my handed to me. Oh, I got embarrassed. I went in, choked, got put out of the way, and of course the next guy just had to fry me on the way out because that's just how it works. But man, I fell in love with that, y'all. I started writing every single day in my cell. I had a guy come talk to me one time and it changed my whole perspective. He said, there's nothing you can ever do to get this time back when you get home. So the only thing you can ever do with this time is what you do with this time right now. This is the only time you're ever going to be able to do something with this time, y'all. This is it. You're not going to get it back. When you go home, you're going to want it back. You're going to want it back. You're going to want that time back. Some of y'all got a list of plans for when you get home this long already. You know what I mean? I know how that works, but don't rush that. You're not going to get this time back. Man, just go out there and fall in love with change. Fall in love with something that keeps you focused on something else. It was music for me. I'm not saying it's music for you. Somebody in here can draw. Somebody in here is funny. The one dude that threw the Balenciaga joke, he's not super funny, but he could be. You know what I mean? He's not far away from it. You know what I mean? He's close. He's warm. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying that I truly believe that change in here happens. And I know what a cycle this is for y'all. I know how, I explain this to staff at every juvenile I go to before I talk to y'all. It's like, I'm a 40-year-old man now. 6 months for me is like a nap. I wake up, it's been 6 months, literally. That's what happens when you're 40. But when I was 16, 6 months meant depending on what 6 months, if I started 6 month sentence in November and I didn't get out until April, I missed an entire school year. So now I'm a second year freshman. Now I'm behind. Now I'm fighting the uphill battle. That made me want to give up. I didn't want to be the guy that graduated at 19, so I just bailed on school the first time I went to juvenile and had to spend the summer. Didn't make no sense for me to go back, you know? I'm telling y'all, that's not the right way to think about this though, man. And this is, some of y'all are in here right now on what is genuinely going to be your last chance before you don't get another chance. Dead ass. Some of y'all in here right now have missed that anyways. It's over. You already missed that last chance. You have to deal with it across the highway. Y'all know that too. But that don't mean it's too late for you to change neither. But man, I'm telling y'all, as sure as I'm sitting here speaking to y'all, man, this can turn around for you in a moment, at any second. If you just dedicate and believe into it. I didn't believe it for forever. Every time I went to a juvenile facility or anytime I went to any facility, I immediately just got involved in the shenanigans. I knew where I was meant to be. I had a violent charge. I had too many tattoos to be classified as anything but a gang member. I knew any facility I went to, I was going right to that unit. If it was a gang unit or a violent offender unit, that's where I was going. If there was a poker table or a spades game to be found, I was cold. I'll whoop any of y'all in spades right now. I'll take the worst spade player y'all have here right now against the best two, and I'll dust y'all.
I got some cards right now.
On your pocket. Don't play with me.
I won't get in trouble like that.
Yeah, no people.
You know, it's interesting that people say, well, I'm too this or I'm too that. There's no way that I could help anybody. You're never too old or too young to be a mentor. You know, because there's a lot of hurting people in this world, and you're never too old to give somebody a kind word, a positive affirmation. You know, I tell my clients all the time, and this is adults or juveniles, I tell them, you know, very seldom do we hear words of praise on a daily basis. Most of the time, we're hearing self-doubt, self-worry, things that they don't mean positive. They just mean fear, worry, anger, strife. Not that we don't need to deal with these things, but, you know, when's the last time you said something good about somebody? When's the last time you gave somebody a positive word, a positive thought, other than in this chat? You know, all of you greet each other with hellos and, you know, good to see you, this and that. I love seeing that. I love seeing that because you know what? It's empowerment. That's why I try so hard to keep this chat free from all the drama of the other chats, because I understand how one bad apple can ruin a bunch. And it's not that they're even a bad apple. It's someone that just is not seeing the same direction as the rest of the people that are in the play.
But man, I can tell y'all there's two things I want y'all to know. The smartest kids I ever met in my life was in the juvenile with me. The smartest men I ever met was in prison with me. The most driven people I ever met, the hardest working people I ever met were stone cold drug addicts or stone cold drug dealers. To this day, I've never seen more talent, more songwriting, more spirit, more energy than I've ever seen in these walls, man. Because I know that anybody that is as fearless as y'all are, to be in this facility, to live in this, and to have to wake up every day in the unknown in these kind of environments, If you could apply that same kind of fearlessness to anything else in life, that's what I realized about me, man. I realized that this didn't make me up. This made me special. That's what changed my perspective, y'all. And whenever I finally quit looking at myself like a victim of the system, and I started realizing that, man, I might be as smart as some of these dudes in here. I might be able to figure this out. I tell y'all what I know. I know that I went to jail and juvenile the first time and I could barely read and write. And to this day, I'm the most articulate person I know. You know why? I had to talk my way out of a bunch of I had to figure my way through the system for 10 years as a kid. I had to falafel around. Some of y'all are the most charismatic kids on earth. This young man right here is dying to talk to me about something. You could tell his foot is glowing off of him. Glowing off of him. Funny man too. Now, before I keep talking at y'all, I want to show y'all why I'm really here. Yo, where's Joe? Joe, grab that guitar. This is Joe, y'all. Joe's the only person I know with a good credit score. Yeah. I'm serious. Oh no, Ernest, you should hang. Oh, you go tune yours in. Start with the hate.
Okay.
Yeah. We the type to pull up to the party like what's up with y'all. Everybody in this thing know that we don't with y'all. Disrespect the fat man and be the last man. I'ma mess around and slap on you with a backhand. You a trick. I won't even hit you with a closed fist. No shit. Tell them boys, miss me with that whole shit. Try me, they gonna mess around and meet the Lord quick. 4/5, got a nose kinda like a swordfish. Need to back down. The king is back now. The king of white trash is about to act out. When it's time to smash out, we drink it till we pass out. Me and my girl will find a girl to blow the girl back out. Send me to hell. They hate I came back. My arrogant ass is acting like I ain't back. I'm on now, y'all, and you can't change that. So if you want to see me, then we can arrange that. A lot of jealousy, but life goes on. Made it from the bottom, why'd it take so long? People hating on me, that's the same old song. And the hate goes on, the hate goes on. Lay in the bed if you made your own. I'm on fire and I can't go wrong. People hating on me, that's the same old song. And the hate goes on, hate goes on. We'll do it here. Ready? I've been drinking, I've been smoking, rolling through the city with my eyes half open. Eyes are rolling, I can't hold it. I'm messed up and everybody knows it. Keep your drama, I don't need that sucker. You see, I came from the rubble. You can see my hustle. You don't know my pain. You ain't see my struggle. I got my middle finger up like I'm a Diaz brother. Talk shit till we pull up in a full truck of fools holding tools up ready to shoot up anyone who abused us, bullied and used us. It's the revenge of the misfits and losers. Hold up, the fat man is on, y'all. The joke is back and fat man is gone, dog. It's all wrong, so really all y'all. And that's why you on my missed call log. A lot of jealousy, but life goes on. Made it from the bottom, why'd it take so long? People hating on me, that's the same old song. And the hate goes on, the hate goes on. Lay in the bed if you made your own. I'm on fire and I can't go wrong. People hating on me, that's the same old song. And the hate goes on, the hate goes on. Said the hate goes on. And the head goes on. Yeah, so listen, here's the fun part. I don't know why I should have did that first. And some of y'all would have listened to me earlier. If I'd have came in and did that first, y'all would have ignored that whole speech I gave. I'll play that song first for y'all for one reason though. When I was like 13 years old, I got this tattoo. It says the hate goes on. I was 13. I don't know what I was thinking. Didn't make any sense. But when I went to juvenile, I wrote the song for the first time when I was 15. I wrote the first version of that song when I was 15. Think about that. 17 years after that, I found the version of the song that I would put out. And that song's a platinum song now. But literally the first time I tried to write a version of a song called The Hate Goes On, I was 15 years old in a place called Woodland Hills. It was just like this. It was a state camp in Tennessee. 20 years, yeah, that's the hustle though, right?
Sure.
Right? It's like,
You know, the way he's talking, I don't think I want to go to Tennessee. Like, I know I hear a lot of child abductions out of that state, but also the way he's talking about the penal system, I don't think that's a state that I want to visit. I think Texas is bad, but this state sounds a lot worse than Texas for some reason.
The law of that applies to this is that there's this idea that if you put 10,000 hours into anything, you can be great at it, right? It just took me 15 years to put 10,000 hours into that. You know what I mean? I had to write 1,000 songs. But that rule applies to whatever. What you laughing? Funny man, funny man. Tell me a joke, funny man. Tell me a joke, funny man. Make us all laugh right now, funny man. I want to hear it. All right, check us out. Yo. Check us out. Reel it back in. 30 seconds. Here's the deal, man. That is exactly how I expected that to go. And I expected if I sit here for 15 more minutes and I let y'all talk to each other, 5 more kids will stand up with something to say. Because that's how it works. And that's expression. Don't ever lose that. Whether you try to do it for a living or not, man, being in a place like this and not being able to get them thoughts out of you is so special, man. Whether you want to rap it to me or not, that's cool. Just keep writing it, though. You know what I'm saying? Find when you want to grab it and spit it for somebody. That's cool, but just the way you feel about spitting it right now, don't let that stop the way you feel about writing it. Period. This thing is exercise. Who's the best drawer in here? I want to see that guy. I know some. Who's doing all the cards for everybody?
Who do the cards here?
You can tell you can tell by the kind of.
I'm trying to hide your face.
Where's Azariah Avery? Where's Azariah Avery? Where's Azariah Avery?
Who's the best spades player? The best spades player.
Come on.
Yeah, the people that don't know how to set the deck. The people that know how to set the deck. They ready to hear. Come on, put your head down. Come on, you're not just like.
Come on.
You need me on your team.
I need you.
But listen, hear me out, man. I do this exercise. I don't do it in adult jails because they've already got their own shit happening. But I do this when I come to juveniles. One, to show you, as much as intense as it gets in here, how supportive y'all are of each other. You don't even know that. Some of y'all don't even like each other, but as soon as it came up, you instinctually stopped to point at somebody else. Right? Man, follow your heart like that. Follow your heart like that. That's the stuff that's going to change your life in the long run. It's just even how y'all interact and deal with each other on a daily basis. How much respect y'all have for each other and love y'all have for each other. Man, that was the coolest thing I ever seen, trying to get everybody to jump up and spit. I've been in facilities where it went the opposite way. Y'all got something special, man. Whether you know it or not. And this right here is a season. Hold on, we got a new funny man. Oh, I want to hear it. Share it with the class. Share it with the class. We want to hear it. Share it with the class. I want to hear it. If you don't respect me enough to not talk when I'm talking, say it to everybody. Stand up and say it out loud. You're not that guy. You had a lot to say a second ago there. Tell y'all the truth, man. I'm not no phony dude that comes in here to talk to y'all. I talk to y'all because I love y'all. I've been in this mother for real. Been through it 3 or 4 times. Looked 50 years in the face and turned it over. Been to the big prison, been stabbed, been shot. I'm a grown man in here, dog. And I believe in y'all and I love you. Period. I think y'all can turn this thing around, man. And I got a sold out show tonight, dog. I got 30 other things I could have did today. I want to come love on y'all and sing for y'all because nobody ever came and sang for me. Nobody ever came and talked to me this way. I just sat in here staring down the barrel of all this time with not a motherfucker to love on me except for the guards, and I wouldn't accept their love because I was trained they were the sworn enemy. And I'm here to tell y'all they're not. Man, these people love y'all. These people are qualified to do anything else for any more amount of money, and they're here because of this because they love y'all. This is not a big money gig. This is a labor of love. This is a passion thing. People get in this business because they believe in change. People get in this business because they believe in y'all. People don't get in this business because they're making no money. They don't get no credit here. The insurance ain't that good. I'd give them better insurance if they'd come tour with me right now. And I love y'all.
Yeah. I hope you enjoyed that. Because, after I spoke with the juvenile today, after I showed that, a lot of times you get a lot of people laughing and joking. I mean, it took me a long time to really understand that the juveniles and their behaviors are just ways of them expressing themselves because they really don't know how to put their feelings into words a lot of times. So by them giggling and laughing or, talking under their breath to their neighbor or whatever, it's just them expressing themselves. And it shouldn't be ever curtailed. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of people that can't stand their kid to laugh, you know, to joke around, to have a good time. How many of you remember when you were a child and you might not have had the best of upbringings? Lord knows a lot of us didn't. Where silence was golden and children were to be seen, not heard. And that was a time when you spoke back to your parents, boy, there was a backhand coming your way. And a lot of times you didn't see it. I had a aunt who had this ring. She was slick, boy. You'd be talking in church or something. She'd turn that ring around. Boy, bam! Knock you in the head. It felt like you were about to pass out. It hurt so bad. I mean, they didn't mess around back then. But for whatever reason, parents feel like they can't reach their kids today. Like they've gotten to a point where I can't reach them. They either shut down on me or they're extremely angry. They don't want to talk to me. Well, one of the reasons is because maybe you waited too late. Maybe you waited too late in life to start talking to them. Or maybe that's all you've ever done is talk and nag and push and prod and not and not give them enough positive outcomes. You know how you deal with that, Truth? You say, hey, put your phone in the basket. I do that every time before I start teaching a class. You know, hey, put your phone in the basket. You can have your phone after I finish the class. I'll never have any problems with them looking at their phone the whole time I'm talking. I have to do that with adults too. You're right about the phones. But that's a coping skill also. Because every time you swipe on that phone, and many of you probably are watching me on a TV or you're watching me on a laptop or something, and you have your phone in your hand and you're swiping, or you're backing out of this and you're swiping up to see what's going on somewhere else. Every time your brain tells you you're a little bored and you need a little stimuli, that's what that swiping gives you. That's swiping up and down, swiping left, swiping right, whatever you're doing, those text messages, dopamine's being released, and all of a sudden, you get a feeling of excitement, and you're not bored anymore. That's why TikTok's such a interesting thing because you can sit there and swipe for hours and hours and hours and lose time. Because every time you're swiping and watching a video, you're releasing some dopamine. And there's been studies on that. So, you know, it it is what it is. You guys are having a good conversation right now. I'm glad that you guys made it out of that. But think about that. The next time you see somebody on their phone and they're doing this, you could be talking to them right here and they don't even hear you. And you're like, hey, what? Did you say something? Because All the blood is gone from their ears to their brain, getting that dopamine release. And the neurotransmitters are firing like a Christmas tree. Almost like the same thing as getting high. Yeah. Dope from dopamine. You only do YouTube, huh? That's probably the best thing. Because all those other ones, they just do nothing but kill your time and your schedule. YouTube's, I mean, there's so much on YouTube that you could literally spend all day long watching videos. I value privacy, but for some reason, I'm a people person now. I like to be around people. I like to talk to people. I like to interact with different variations of people. I like to, yeah, I don't care for Discord. I like to be able to have healthy conversations with people. I like to laugh. I like to be able to have a healthy debate with people. And by debate, I'm not talking about you're right, I'm wrong. And at the end, we're both no further down the road than we were when we first started talking. I want that to lead somewhere where we get some kind of closure, not where we leave and be like, well, I'll see you next week for coffee and we'll continue with the same thought pattern. You know what I mean? I'm not built like that. But there's a lot of people that are, and I respect the hell out of them. But if you've never mentored a juvenile, if you've never thought the need, or maybe I don't have the patience for it, or maybe I don't have the love for it, or, I wasn't raised in a good environment, so how can I help somebody else? Try to remember, like I was telling the kid today, I'm not here because I'm damaged. I'm here because I can show you a way out. I can suggest different ways to cope with life. I'm not trying to brainwash you. I'm not trying to control you. I'm just merely delivering the message, hoping that one person hears what I have to say. And you decide when the pain outweighs the reward, then we have change. You know what I mean? I hope you remember that. When the pain outweighs the reward, then you have change. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. My name is 12 Gage. I am your host, and this is 12 Gage Investigative. Before I leave, I want to ask you a question. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't dig it, get yourself a bigger shovel. Maestro, cue that music.